They fought, led, and sacrificed, but their stories were buried by time. Today, we bring 12 forgotten heroes of Alabama back to life to show how they helped shape the soul of the South. Number 1. Alexander McGillivray. Alexander McGillivray was born on the Tallapoosa River to a Creek mother and a Scottish trader father, so he spoke both Muskogee and English and understood two very different worlds. While other youths learned the bow or musket, Alexander mastered reading, writing, and the art of persuasion, skills that soon made him the Creek nation's sharpest voice. As settlers pushed into Alabama after the American Revolution, McGillivray decided to defend his homeland with ink instead of arrows. He wrote letters to Spanish governors in Pensacola, sketched maps for British agents, and even negotiated gun shipments, playing three empires against each other so the Creeks could stand their ground without firing a shot. His boldest move came in 1789 when he sailed to New York, then the U.S. capital, wearing a crimson officer's coat over Creek leggings. Before President George Washington, he signed the Treaty of New York, which forced the young United States to recognize Creek borders across most of present-day Alabama in exchange for peace and trade. McGillivray died at just 34, but his diplomatic daring bought his people nearly a decade of safety and carved their name onto the early American map. Every time Alabamians trace rivers like the Coosa or Tallapoosa, they follow lines first defended by the Creek chief, who proved that words can be mightier than war. Number 2. Mataha. Mataha grew up in the pine forests of western Alabama, earning the nickname Eagle Eye Warrior for his keen sight and fearless spirit. By adulthood, he was the Choctaw Nation's most trusted war leader, famous for lightning-fast raids that kept enemy tribes and encroaching settlers at bay. When the War of 1812 reached the Gulf Coast, Mataha faced a hard choice: fight with the British or take a chance on the young United States. He chose the Americans, marching 500 Choctaw warriors to Andrew Jackson's side and helping win the pivotal Battle of Horseshoe Bend on Alabama's Tallapoosa River, a victory that changed the war's course. After the shooting stopped, the warrior became a statesman. Dressed in a U.S. officer's uniform, Mataha traveled to Washington, D.C., where he spoke fluent English before Congress, demanding schools, fair trade, and secure borders for his people. Lawmakers were so impressed that they rose to greet him and awarded him a Silver Peace Medal. In 1824, while still negotiating for Choctaw rights, Mataha fell ill and asked to be buried with full military honors. The U.S. Army granted his wish with a cannon salute, the only Native leader ever laid to rest that way in the capital. Number 3. Samuel Dale. Samuel Dale stepped onto the Alabama frontier with iron nerves and a knack for finding safe paths through endless pine woods. Neighbors called him whenever letters had to cross hostile ground or wagons needed a fearless guide. By the time war with the Red Stick Creeks erupted in 1813, everyone on the Tombigbee River knew Captain Sam was the man you wanted out front. His fame was sealed in the canoe fight. Spotting a war canoe gliding down the Alabama River, Dale and two friends paddled straight at it, boarded in midstream, and battled hand to hand on the rocking boat. Muskets roared, paddles cracked, and when the splashing stopped, 11 enemy warriors were down while Dale's trio stood unhurt. Word of the impossible victory raced across the territory. Dale kept working after the shooting stopped, riding night missions to warn families, escorting refugees to safety, and hauling supplies through flooded creeks. When Alabama became a state in 1819, voters picked him for the very first legislature, trusting the same cool head that had steered bullets away to help steer new laws. Today, a quiet stone near the river marks his grave, but fishermen still point to the bend where a canoe once became a fortress. In every splash of paddle or crack of rifle in frontier tales, Captain Sam Dale's grit still echoes down the water. Number 4. William Weatherford. Born to a Creek mother and Scottish trader father, William Weatherford grew up fearless on horseback and fluent in 2 cultures. Among his own people, he was Lamachadi, Red Eagle, renowned for daring hunts and a booming voice that could rally warriors from miles away. When settlers surged into Creek lands, he chose to fight for the pine groves and rivers that raised him. The war's flashpoint came at Fort Mims in 1813, where Red Eagle led a stunning dawn assault that shocked the young United States and turned Alabama into a battlefield. For months, he dodged Andrew Jackson's troops, striking and fading into swamps. Only he understood. But defeat at Horseshoe Bend left his nation broken and hungry. Instead of fleeing, Weatherford rode alone into Jackson's camp, dismounted, and calmly offered himself as a prisoner, if it meant food and mercy for the surviving Creeks. Even hardened soldiers fell silent at such raw courage. Jackson, impressed, spared him and let him guide his people to safer ground. Red Eagle spent his final years farming by the Little River, counseling younger Creeks to learn new ways while never forgetting old ones. He died at 43, yet every Alabama sunrise over former Creek country reminds us of the warrior who could charge in battle one day and ride unarmed into an enemy camp the next. Number 5. Millie Francis. Millie Francis grew up on the Alabama-Florida frontier, the daughter of Creek leader Josiah Hillis Hadjo Francis. Life along the rivers was tense. American soldiers and Creek warriors watched each other from opposite banks, and every rustle in the palmettos felt like trouble waiting to pounce. One spring morning in 1818, a young U.S. soldier, Duncan McCrimmon, stumbled into Millie's camp and was captured. Warriors tied him to a stake, ready to take revenge for raids on their villages. Millie, just 15, stepped forward. She begged her father for mercy, promising the soldier meant no harm. Her calm courage melted the anger around the fire, and McCrimmon was set free. Word raced up the coast. American newspapers called her the Creek Pocahontas, praising the teenage girl who saved an enemy's life with nothing but kindness. Years later, Congress voted Millie a medal and a small pension, rare honors for a Native woman in that era, though the money reached her only months before she died in Oklahoma Territory. Today, when Alabamians speak of bravery, they remember not just daring fighters, but also a Creek girl who proved that a single act of compassion can echo louder than any musket shot. Millie Francis reminds us that true heroism sometimes comes with an open hand, not a clenched fist. Number 6. Josiah Gorgus. Josiah Gorgus wasn't born in Alabama, but the state became his life's stage. A West Point-trained ordnance officer, he resigned from the U.S. Army when the Civil War began and took on a near-impossible job: Chief of Ordnance for the Confederacy. The South had few factories, little gunpowder, and Union ships blocking every port. Gorgus answered with creativity instead of cannons. He built armories in Selma and Montgomery, opened powder mills along the rivers, and turned railroad depots into makeshift foundries. By war's end, his network had produced nearly every rifle, bullet, and shell fired by Southern troops, an industrial miracle many historians say kept Confederate armies in the field far longer than anyone thought possible. When peace returned, Gorgus moved to Tuscaloosa to help rebuild rather than destroy. He became president and later librarian of the University of Alabama, stocking its burned-out campus with new books and scientific equipment. His son, William C. Gorgus, would later conquer yellow fever, proof that a legacy of problem-solving can stretch across generations. Walk through the university's quiet quad today, and you'll find Gorgus Library, a tribute to the man who turned scarcity into strength. Josiah Gorgus shows Alabama students that brain power, not just firepower, can change the course of history. Number 7. Horus King. Horus King was born enslaved in Cherokee County, but he carried a talent no chains could hold. He could look at a river and imagine the perfect bridge. By his 20s, he was directing crews of white carpenters, quietly proving that skill matters more than skin. Travelers crossing his first covered bridge at Wetumpka gasped at how smoothly its long timbers rose above the Coosa's swirling water. When his owner died in 1846, King's genius spoke louder than laws. The Alabama legislature passed a special act granting him freedom. He soon designed bold lattice truss bridges from Georgia to Mississippi, each one a lifeline for wagons, mail, and dreams. Folks began calling him the Prince of Bridge Builders. During the Civil War, Confederate officials ordered King to burn his own Columbus, Georgia, bridge to block Union troops. Instead, he convinced them to save it, then rebuilt more crossings after the fighting ended. He even floated a mobile pontoon bridge down the Chattahoochee so soldiers and supplies could move where no road existed. In Reconstruction, he won a seat in the Alabama House, one of the first black lawmakers in state history. Today, many of his spans are gone, but sturdy stone piers still rise from quiet rivers, reminding travelers that a self-taught engineer once turned planks and pegs into pathways. Number 8. Emma Sansom. Emma Sansom was just 16 when war thundered past her family farm near Gadsden. Union cavalry under Colonel Streight had burned bridges behind them, hoping to escape Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest. On a rainy May morning in 1863, Forrest reached Black Creek, only to find the bridge gone and the river swift with floodwater. Emma heard the commotion and walked toward the soldiers in her plain calico dress. When Forrest asked if there was any other crossing, she answered yes, and offered to guide him herself. Bullets snapped from the far bank as the teenager climbed onto the general's horse, pointed out a secret ford, and showed the cavalry where to swim their mounts. Forrest's men splashed across, chased down Straight's column, and forced its surrender 2 days later. Confederate papers hailed Emma as the sunbonnet heroine, while Union writers admitted her quick action turned the race. Back home, neighbors built a tall stone monument with her name and the simple words, patriotism and courage. After the war, Emma married a Texas rancher and lived a quiet life, never boasting about her daring ride. Yet every year, students in Gadsden retell the story of the farm girl who faced rifle fire, guided an army, and proved that sometimes the smallest voice on the battlefield can change the whole war. Number 9. John Pelum. John Pelum grew up on an Alabama farm, riding bareback horses and practicing target shooting with homemade rifles. When the Civil War began, the young West Point cadet chose to serve the South and was soon given a tiny battery of horse-drawn cannons. Most officers would have hidden such light guns, but Pelum saw a chance to surprise the enemy with speed. At Fredericksburg, he rolled a single cannon onto open ground and fired so fast that Union troops thought an entire battery blocked their way. For over an hour, his lone gun roared, buying precious time for Confederate lines. General Robert E. Lee watched in amazement and nicknamed him the Gallant Pelum. Pelum turned light artillery into a mobile force, dashing up dusty roads, unlimbering, firing, and vanishing before return fire could land. Soldiers cheered whenever they spotted his flying red scarf, his quiet signal that help had arrived. Even opponents wrote home about the fearless boy major who seemed to appear wherever danger was worst. He was only 24 when a shell fragment struck him at Kelly's Ford. As news spread, camps on both sides fell silent, stunned that such bold energy could be gone so quickly. Yet every time a modern army moves fast artillery into position, the spirit of Alabama's gallant Pelum still echoes across the field. Number 10. Joseph Stillwell, Joe Kaine. After the Civil War, Mobile sat in ruins, its streets quiet, its people weary under Union occupation. Into that gloom rode Joe Kaine, a local clerk with a talent for mischief and music. On Mardi Gras Day, 1866, he climbed into a decorated wagon, dressed as a fictional Chickasaw chief named Slakabamorinico, and banged a drum down Dauphin Street. At first, neighbors peeked from shutters, unsure whether to laugh or hide. Then children joined the march, and brass horns appeared from nowhere. By sundown, a one-man parade had turned into a citywide party, daring Mobile to feel joy again. Northern soldiers, puzzled but smiling, let the revelry roll. Joe kept the tradition alive each year, forming the Order of Myths, Mobile's first modern Mardi Gras society. His rolling tableau, with folly chasing death around a broken column, reminded citizens that laughter can outpace sorrow. Soon other crews formed, floats grew brighter, and Mobile reclaimed its title as America's original Mardi Gras town. When Joe Kaine died, the city he revived laid him to rest in the heart of town. Every carnival season, locals still celebrate Joe Kaine Day by parading in colorful costumes, shouting, "Laissez le bon temps rouler," and tipping their hats to the man who proved that one brave burst of fun can pull an entire community back to life. Number 11. Julia Strudwick Tutweiler. Julia Tutweiler loved books more than ballrooms. While many girls in 1850s Alabama practiced needlework, she devoured every volume in her father's library, dreaming of classrooms where women could study science and history too. At 21, she even sailed to Europe for college courses, then hurried home with a mission: open those same doors for Southern women. Back in Montgomery, she visited lawmakers, one by one, asking why half the state's brains were locked outside its schools. Her calm but stubborn words worked. Normal colleges began admitting women, and Julia took charge of Livingston Normal College, filling its halls with eager female scholars who would go on to teach thousands more. Her caring spirit reached beyond campus walls. Horrified by filthy county jails, she campaigned for separate cells for women, night classes for inmates, and tiny Sunday libraries behind bars. Guards who first mocked her later thanked her when violence dropped and literacy climbed. Julia even penned the lyrics to Alabama, the state song still sung in classrooms today. Each verse is a love letter to learning and kindness, the values this mother of coeducation used to rebuild her state, one open door at a time. Number 12, Richmond Pearson Hobson. Richmond Hobson grew up near Greensboro sketching battleships instead of barns. He graduated first in his class at the U.S. Naval Academy, and when the Spanish-American War broke out, volunteered for a mission few expected to survive, sink the aging collier Merrimac in Cuba's narrow Santiago harbor to trap Spain's fleet inside. Under a storm of shells, Hobson steered the ship into the channel and blew its boilers. Though the vessel drifted, the daring stunt shocked Spain and thrilled Americans. Captured and later exchanged, the young lieutenant returned home a national hero. Parade crowds rushed the train just to shake his hand. Hobson swapped uniform for politics in 1906, winning a seat in Congress from Alabama. There, he championed a stronger Navy, early submarine funding, and the budding field of aviation. He also led a nationwide crusade against alcohol, warning that a sober citizenry was as vital as any battleship to the nation's future. Awarded the Medal of Honor for extraordinary courage, Hobson spent his final years writing naval textbooks and telling schoolchildren that big dreams require bold action. His life, from fiery harbor to quiet lecture hall, reminds Alabamians that bravery can be measured both in explosions and in ideas that change a country. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.